Sit back and throw one back with your pinky in the air and a middle finger to the world, and join me, the eclectic gentleman Stephen Watts, as we look back on this day in pro wrestling history. But before we do, put that drink down, like, share, and subscribe, and without further ado, let's get our wrestling history on. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is November 22nd, and we're going to start off as we always do on a positive note. That's right, these are your pro wrestling birthdays. 1966, retired professional wrestling booker for WCW, Ed Ferrara. 1976, former WCW Cruiserweight Champion, Lash LaRue. Of course, on the flip side of that coin, your pro wrestling deaths for November 22nd. 2011, former pro wrestling Noah talent, Bison Smith. Alright, enough of the sad stuff. It's time to get to the meat and potatoes. That's right, these are your pro wrestling history highlights for November 22nd. Jumping in the Wayback Machine and going all the way to 1922, where we see Billy Meeks defeat Joe Bailey in a tournament final to win the vacant Australian heavyweight title in Melbourne, Australia. The title had been vacant since 1915, when champion Clarence Weber retired. Hitting super fast forward and going to 1950, Baron Michel Leon defeats Enrique Torres in Los Angeles, California, to become recognized world heavyweight champion in Los Angeles and the Pacific Northwest. A 4-year jump this time to 1954. Lord James Blears and Joe Panzendak defeat Gene Knitsky and John Tolos for the NWA International Television Tag Team titles in Los Angeles, California. That next year in 1955, Ricky Dozen defeats King Kong in a tournament final to become the first All-Asia heavyweight champion in Tokyo, Japan. He would hold the title until his death on December 8th, 1963. Grooving into 1961, Lord James Blears and Neff Maivia win their second NWA Hawaii Tag Team titles by defeating Shoulders Newman and Ted Travis. A 2-year jump this time to 1963. Billy Hines defeats Mickey Sharp to win the NWA Gulf Coast heavyweight title in Mobile, Alabama. Making 2 stops in 1968. First, the Assassins, Tom Ernesto and Jody Hamilton, defeat Ramon and Alberto Torres for the NWA Georgia Tag Team titles in Atlanta, Georgia, ending the Torres' 3rd reign. Our second stop in 1968 sees Rocket and Flash Monroe defeat Don Carson and Dick Dunn to win the NWA Gulf Coast Tag Team titles in Dothan, Alabama. Our final stop in the groovy 60s, 1969. Joe Scarpa, a.k.a. Chief J. Strongbow, defeats Assassin No. 2, Tom Ernesto, in a tournament final in Atlanta, Georgia, to become the first NWA Georgia Television Champion. Grabbing my best polyester suit for 2 stops in 1972. First, Bob Kelly begins his 10th reign as NWA Gulf Coast Heavyweight Champion, ending the 5th reign of the Wrestling Pro in Mobile, Alabama. Second, Rocket and Flash Monroe defeat Rip Tyler and Eddie Sullivan to win the Gulf Coast version of the NWA United States Tag Team titles in Mobile, Alabama, ending Tyler and Sullivan's 3rd reign. 2 years later in 1974, Pampiro Firpo defeats John Tolos for the NWA America's Heavyweight title in Los Angeles, California. This begins Firpo's 3rd reign and ended Tolos' 7th. Disco ducking it to 1976, superstar Billy Graham defeats Dusty Rhodes for the NWA Florida Heavyweight title in West Palm Beach, Florida, ending Rhodes' 3rd reign. Another 2-year skip to 1978, Mondo Guerrero defeats Larry Sharp for the NWA Hawaii Heavyweight title in Honolulu, Hawaii. Grabbing my boombox and going to 1980, where we see Judy Martin defeat Princess Littleheart for the NWA United States Women's title in Atlanta, Georgia. Next in 1982, Kevin Sullivan defeats Dusty Rhodes for the Florida version of the NWA Southern Heavyweight title in West Palm Beach, Florida, ending Rhodes' 7th reign. 1984 sees Jimmy Golden defeat Austin Idol for the NWA Southeastern Heavyweight title in Birmingham, Alabama, beginning his 6th reign. 3 years later, in 1987, the Midnight Rockers, Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels, defeat the Rock and Roll RPMs, Mike Davis and Tommy Lane, to win their second AWA Southern Tag Team titles in Memphis, Tennessee, ending the RPM's fifth reign. 2 stops in the year 1989. First, Big Van Vader defeats Kinect for the Universal Wrestling Association World Heavyweight title in Mexico City, Mexico, ending Kinect's 9th reign. Our second stop in '89 sees Jim Breeks defeat Kid McCoy in Ipswich, England, to win the European Light Heavyweight title. Grabbing my flannel and going to the decade of grunge, 1990. The WWF held the 4th annual Survivor Series pay-per-view at the Civic Center in Hartford, Connecticut. The event sees the debut of The Undertaker. That next year, in 1991, Los Infernals defeat Los Brazos in a tournament final to become the first CMLL World Trios Champions in Mexico City, Mexico. Staying in 1991, John Tatum and Rod Price defeat Steve Simpson in a handicap match to win the Global Wrestling Federation Tag Team titles in Dallas, Texas. Moving to 1992, Ultimo Dragon defeats El Samurai for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title in Tokyo, Japan. On the same card, Scott Norton and Tony Hamill, later known as Ludwig Borga in the WWF, defeat the Steiner Brothers to win the IWGP World Tag Team titles. Staying in 1992, Jeff Jarrett won a Battle Royal for the USWA Unified Heavyweight title in Memphis, Tennessee, pinning Jerry Lawler to win the belt for the first time in his career. The belt had been vacated by Randy Savage when the WWF broke off their working relationship with the USWA. 1993, Buddy Landel defeats Jeff Jarrett for the USWA Southern Heavyweight title in Memphis, Tennessee, ending Jarrett's 10th reign with the belt. And last but not least, 1998, WCW's 4th and final World War III pay-per-view, it would be replaced by Mayhem the following year, was held at the Palace in Auburn Hills in Michigan. Kevin Nash won the 3-ring 60-man World War III Battle Royal. As a result, he earned a WCW World Title match with Goldberg at Starrcade. Those were your short but sweet pro wrestling history highlights for November 22nd. I'm the Eclectic Gentleman Stephen Watts, and we'll see you tomorrow.